All right, guys, what's going on? Standard disclaimer. Unfortunately, at this point in the year, I am severely struggling with allergies. I'm going to attribute that last mispronunciation to that. So something will probably happen as I record, and I'll just do my best to navigate it. Again, I apologize. All right. Um, I want to actually spend today, since I gave you the extension, I want to spend today sort of one more time talking about paper three. I feel like I have a pretty good, actually super recent text to bring to your attention. Use it as an example. We're going to do that here in a minute. Before that, though, I want to very quickly cover sort of the business aspect of class, everything we got coming up. Number one, this is us. I always feel weird saying today because obviously I record these videos the day before. But anyway, this video is for the 12th, whenever it is you're watching it. Presentation, I mean, admittedly, given the extension, probably a little bit on the back burner for most of you, but that's okay. I do want to point out to you, you do have a discussion post due along with the responses that we have for discussion posts. That's due for tomorrow, for Tuesday. That makes more sense, for Tuesday. And really, this is just, I mean, it's a discussion post. It's pretty informal. It's pretty low stakes. And it's just meant to try to help get you guys going when it comes to that final project, discussing some ideas, just again, get some momentum behind it. The proposal for next time is a more formal version of that, and that's really all it is. I just want you to do this one first, maybe respond to a couple people, read what other people have to say. I always like to point out to you guys, sometimes you can be surprised with the ideas that sort of spring to mind when you engage with other people's ideas. So I think it's actually a really helpful exercise. But after you do all that, then I want you to sit down, write up a little document, 500 words ish, where you try to boil that down. Like, here are some of the big ideas I have when it comes to my project, what I might talk about, what I might focus on, things like that. And again, all of this is just meant to, uh, at this stage anyway, help organize maybe what's probably some looser thoughts up there. All right. And then, of course, our paper three, our final draft, is due to turnitin.com the 12th by 11:59. Okay. Let's do the paper three refresher, as I have chosen to call it. To begin with, one interesting aspect of this whole conversation we've had this semester that I don't think we've actually talked enough about is the kind of siloed nature of the sort of technological landscape we live within. So the tweet I'm about to show you, because of course that's what it's going to be, I kind of I assume many of you will not be familiar with. The reason it came up for me is one of my interests is football, college and pro. Um, so a lot of the tweets that I see are related to that because of course everything we do online is being tracked. Twitter knows that I care about that stuff to some degree, along with video games, products for people that have kids. Like, again, you're being tracked in all these ways. But that is to say, again, the tweet I'm about to show you happened just this weekend, first of all, so it's super recent. But also, it's likely many of you would not have seen it. Probably, possibly, don't even know who this person is. So I'm going to break that down very quickly before we get into what we're going to do. All right, so here's the tweet. Let me find it right there. Okay. And actually, this is a retweet, which I want to talk about as well. But we're going to talk about the original tweet first, which is here. Dwayne Haskins, this is tweeted by a guy named Adam Schefter. He's an NFL.com. Nope. ESPN, sorry, reporter. Dwayne Haskins, a standout at Ohio State. He was a quarterback before struggling to catch on with Washington and Pittsburgh in the NFL. Died this morning when he got hit by a car in South Florida, per his agent, Cedric Saunders. Haskins would have turned 25 years old on May 3rd. So it's a very sad situation, like just from the jump, right? Super messed up. Not that he's reporting it. I mean, that is his job. He's a reporter. But the situation itself, especially when you take into account that the kid was only 24 years old, like it's it's just fucking sad. Like it really is. There's no other way to really talk about that. Okay. But the internet really took issue with this, right? And to be entirely fair, for sure, you could see why. Um, so what happened? Well, Adam Schefter tweets this, and of course, people start sort of running with it. He recognizes his mistake, deletes it, and he fixed it here, right? That sounds better. Still covers the story. That's his job, okay? But gets rid of what a lot of people took to be in poor taste, right? And it is, for sure. It is. This is where we come to our actual text. I just want to be clear. Our actual text is not the very sad news that this kid died, and it is not even that Adam Schefter screwed up in his original reporting and fixed it. That's not our text. Our text is this, the conversation around it. So we're going to come to that. I want to show you how to work to that, but I just want to be clear. It's stuff like what this guy says. Oh, hell. About it. Okay? All right, to begin with, let's work our way to it. We're going to do a quick introduction. I've already set everything up. It won't be double spaced, but everything else is good. Now, he was coming back for practice. It's too early for training camp. I'll just... Okay. Why do I start this way? All we're doing, and I'm trying to do it very quickly, I want to make that clear. We're providing background information. Again, as I pointed out, this is our text, but we gotta walk through this to get here, right? If we just started with the conversation, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Again, for some of you out there who have no idea who these people are, you need this information, right? So I've tried to boil it down right here. This is the very sad event that kicked all this off. I've done it in 2 sentences. And look, at the very least, I worded it better than Adam Schefter, right? So there's that. But Haskins was 24 years old. You know what? I could leave that part out because that's going to be clear with what we say here. Was it struggles or struggling? Okay. Inclusion of Haskins. All right, so again, this is still background information. We're only 3 sentences deep, but we're getting very close to actually being able to talk about the text now. This is what happened. This is what Adam Schefter said about it, which, to be fair, this is what the conversation is actually about, right? And we're 3 sentences in. We're very quick to it. Some of you, if you're having trouble with the introduction, a lot of it is springing from you're spending way too much time on the background information. I think sometimes you guys can get caught up in that. You can, and again, I think part of it is because it's things you care about, it's things you know, but you have to bear in mind we only need the sort of very, very boiled down information so we can get to the conversation around it. That's pretty much where we are here. Um, sort of altering his phrasing to uh, right? Because it's people find that insulting. This bit. Okay, that's all the background information. Now we're to the conversation. Okay, because that's what happened. So what is the conversation? Most of it is this. Now let's talk about this guy for he's just a dude, right? But what is his point here? What is he, we talked about rhetoric all semester. What's he saying without saying it, right? You can't delete and rephrase at 21,000 quote tweets, dude. There's a couple. I'm trying to keep those ads away. There's a couple sort of nuanced possibilities here, but the general sense of what this Conway guy is saying is just because you deleted it, you know, the internet doesn't actually allow you to delete things, right? The internet doesn't allow you to forget, especially when you're at least somewhat famous, which is what Adam Schefter is. Okay, true. Now, though, let's consider there's a little bit of stank on this, especially with the dude, right? Well, what's that about? The way I read this, and again, there's a couple nuanced possibilities. The most likely to me is he's basically saying, "We got you. Like you're not going to get away with this one," type of thing. And that's interesting. So let's start there. And again, I'm not going to quote Conway in my introduction. I will almost certainly quote him in a body paragraph if I were to continue this paper, which I'm not. Don't freak out. We're just doing an introduction. But I can allude to this because it's going to be in my paper, right? So how are we going to talk about it? Um, and because of course that happened. A lot of people were calling for his job. ESPN should fire this guy, which is kind of wild. For this reason, here's what we got to think about. Other people, for instance, I might also in another paragraph talk about Des Bryant, who some of you, again, if you don't follow football, you don't know who that is. Uh, was a receiver for a bunch of years, only recently retired. Uh, Mostly played for the Dallas Cowboys. Anyway, he tweeted something about, and I'm paraphrasing, about how people like Adam Schefter only think of athletes as animals. You know, this is his true colors, basically, all that stuff. Let's take that argument on, because again, it's kind of part of this, right? Is that possible that a guy like Adam Schefter thinks of athletes, because those are the people he reports on, in those terms? It's possible. It's possible that he doesn't think of them as people, for sure. What are the other possibilities, though, when it comes to this tweet and then deleting it and rephrasing it? Isn't it also possible that he just misspoke? That he just said a thing wrongly and then fixed it? Isn't that possible? For sure. For sure. Now the question becomes, of those two ideas, because those are kind of the two most distinct possibilities, which one is more likely? The way I always put it, which one is more fair? I'm gonna be honest, probably the one where he just screwed up, because people do that. That happens, especially on Twitter, especially with a guy like this whose whole job is to get the story out fast. If you're writing fast, and some of you know this, if you're writing quickly, you mess up. Well, that brings me back to this. The whole idea is we got him. The whole idea is now we see what this guy really is. And let's think about that. If and or when you make a mistake, specifically in this case, if and or when you misspeak, because that's how I'm reading this, is that really you when you've misspoken? Or is it more likely that it was a simple mistake? It's the equivalent of a typo, right? But you're just saying it. Which one of those seems more fair? All right, let's begin that conversation here. All right, and that's basically the conversation. Let me see, it starts really here with the screenshot. So I want to highlight something for you, literally and figuratively. This is all our background information. Some of you will take a little less time than this because this one has some moving parts to it, okay? I don't think anyone really should take more than this for their background information. We got to be that fast, okay? From there, we're actually providing our text, which is the conversation. People took screenshots. Here is what they started to say, right? That's our conversation. These are the opinions on Adam Schefter and his reporting. Cool. Now, to be totally clear, this is an introduction that I'm just kind of writing off the cuff. I have not written the body of my paper. When I do, which again, I'm not going to do, don't freak out. You're not going to be here for 2 hours. When I write the body of the paper, at some point, I'm going to need to go back and look at this introduction and say, all right, did I end up talking about anything else? Did I not talk about some of the things I bring up here? And then I'll have some questions to answer myself. Should I write another body paragraph to cover stuff I missed? Or does that mean some of this stuff didn't actually matter? Do I need to change anything? Do I need to add to it? That's a conversation you need to have with yourself, okay? But at this stage, and for the purposes of this video, not going on too long, I'm going to try to get us to some kind of a thesis, okay? And again, to be totally clear, this is going to be a working thesis. This is simply going to be a kind of shot in the dark that, again, can and in many cases would change in some capacity after I finish the paper, because you're going to make discoveries along the way. But anyway, let's think about this. So my last sort of point in talking about the conversation, which I guess is really kind of beginning my argument. Interestingly, very few people seem to consider whether or not Schefter simply misspoke in his original tweet. And that's the thing I have a question about. The question here is why? Why does no one entertain that idea? Right? The point I made before was, again, to be totally fair to guys like Des Bryant, it's possible. It is possible that somebody like Adam Schefter doesn't see them as people. He only sees them as stories, for sure. But it's just as possible, if we're going to have a discussion about this, that he messed up. It's possible. You have to allow for that to have a measured debate, okay? But we don't do that, generally speaking, and that's kind of what these papers are about. We're not interested, it doesn't seem like, in having that measured debate. So the question is, what are we actually interested in doing? It's posed like we're having a debate, I think, oftentimes, but that's not what's happening. So what is it? Well, let's return to what would probably be our first body paragraph. This guy, he's saying like, I got you. You can't get away with this. We're on to you, type of thing. That's what the number is about, right? Okay. So what? Why would this Tyler Conway person do that? You know, what does he have to gain for himself? I suppose in retweeting these tweets and adding his commentary. Why does anybody do that? Because a lot of people do that. There's a couple possibilities again, but above all, if we attach it to the original deleted tweet, isn't Conway in some way saying, I would never do that? I don't stand for whatever we're going to say this stands for, right? I'm against that. That's kind of where this guy is. Okay. That's a really strong stance to take if we're saying this guy is totally against verbal typos, right? Is totally against misspeaking. I would never misspeak. That's a crazy thing to say. We all do that. That's bananas. So that's probably not what he means. What's more likely is he means sort of along the lines of a Des Bryant, right? He would never talk about the dead like this. He would never consider someone to be a non-person. So he's also insinuating that. And again, that kind of makes our question, why do we do that? Why do we always seemingly only assume that somebody says or means the worst thing possible? Because that's the worst thing possible in this case. Best case scenario, he messed up. Worst case scenario, he's a monster, right? It kind of seems like we're always leaning toward that last one. Why is that? That's where our argument comes in, okay? So, as soon as we're in that, so we misspoke. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Google. Okay. Now, again, this is a little bit stunted. It's a little bit underdeveloped because I have no body to my paper, but this is the beginning of my argument about that stuff. And again, for the purpose of time, I'm going to try in front of you a bit of a working thesis. One argument is, well, let's take the sorry about that. Let's take the best case argument first. The best case argument is that we want the world to be a better place, right? And that when we see someone say or do an awful thing, we want to call them out for it, right? Because we want to stamp that out, I suppose, right? Like we want to make sure that stuff doesn't happen. We want to call them out and then like get other people to call them out, and through sort of public pressure, we weed those folks out of society or out of Twitter or whatever, right? Let's start there. I like a good although, by the way. Although, how do we describe that? Take such position out of something like that, right? That's one. That's one half of the argument because that's what although makes us do. It is fair to say that these people are. That's my way of saying that their heart's in the right place, right? Sure, we can say that. Although that, what else is true? That's not the only thing that's happening. Because again, at least from my position, I think this is pretty damn unfair to this guy. And to be totally clear, I think Adam Schefter is kind of a tool. I think that's kind of part of this too, is people just don't like him, and that's fun. We just like to bury people we don't like. Um, but I really, he just screwed up. It's a really easy thing to do. Most of his reporting is like this. He talks about players and how they're doing. This is what he's used to doing. You know what he's not used to reporting on? People dying. That's not his job 99% of the time. So he messed up. That's the easier argument to make. It's the more sensical argument to make, but we do not do that. So why? One part of it is we don't like it. We think it's mean. We think it's insulting. So there's that. Why else? Although it's fair to say that most of these commenters take such a position out of the desire to see such reporting stamped out. We want to get rid of those insults, that meanness. Okay. Why else? It's something about, it's a signal, right? We want people to know kind of, I mean, again, I'm thinking about my first body paragraph. This guy tweets this. Why? Because he wants people to know he would never do that. He would never do this. Right? So what? All right. That's too fancy. We often misunderstand, and sorry, you're watching me struggle here in real time. I just want to make sure I'm clear here. We often misunderstand. I'm not in love with the end of that there, but what are we saying in our thesis here? It's kind of two sentences. There's the first part, right? People's hearts are in the right place. They're trying to do the right thing. Okay. But we're kind of saying they're trying so hard to do that right thing that they screw up too. And they basically come at folks who aren't monsters, who aren't just sort of out and out evil, which again, people are saying things like that about Schefter. He was just trying to get the story out. He was trying to get the story out fast. Because again, that's his job. Especially in 2022 on Twitter. That's his job. Be real fast. Be accurate, but be fast. And again, to be fair, even though it's not nice, that's an accurate tweet. Dude did struggle to catch on with these two teams. That happened. The issue was people didn't like the phrasing. People don't necessarily care for accuracy when it comes to the reporting of a death. Not in all respects, anyway. And he recognized that. And he changed it. That says to me, again, the two possibilities are somebody like this would say, oh, he'd been caught, right? That's what this guy is at. Or the other possibility is he's a human being too. He recognized his mistake. He fixed it. Isn't this, and we've said this several times this semester, what we want? Somebody to go, damn it, I can't believe I did that, and then fix it. That's great. That's the goal, right? This would suggest no, because he has both. He has all the information, and he's interpreted it a different way. His interpretation then would actually speak against this, because Schefter has done that himself. If instead, just for the sake of argument, if instead this tweet was like, glad to see, even Schefter has a soul or something like that, would it still have some stank on it? Yeah, but it would be saying, he made the right change, good for him type of thing, right? That's not what we're doing. To me, it seems more like that, right? And to be totally clear here, I'd like to see where the body of my paper went. This might be too nice to this argument. Honestly, I kind of feel like, basically people use other people to make themselves look better, right? To make themselves look more virtuous, this sort of thing. I think that's real, unfortunately. Um, so it could potentially head in that direction. But at the very least, I wanted one more quick time. I keep saying, for the sake of time, I'm going to try to wrap this up. I am going to try to do that. One more quick time. This is an introduction. This is what we're after in the paper. You will notice several things. There are no should statements in this paragraph whatsoever, and there would not be in the rest of my paper. That's not what we're doing. You'll notice too, I do not comment on my opinion of what Schefter did. That's not what we're here to do. I, to the best of my ability, got through all that information there. That's all the background we need. Here's the unfortunate thing that happened. The beginning of the conversation we're focused on actually started with the reporting of that unfortunate thing. And here's that. Here's our text. Ooh, if I could make it happen. That's our text. That's the conversation around the thing, right? And then from there, my argument. That's it. This is what we're arguing in this paper. Again, all of your arguments will be somewhat different because we're all doing different texts. But if nothing else, if you're still not sure what we're after, you focus on this thesis. This is the mode I want us working in, right? We're talking about why we talk about these events in the ways that we do. That's what we're after. All right. It's my sincere hope that that clears any remaining confusion up. I understand it's somewhat late in the game for some of you, but we have been talking about this for a while. That's why I call this a refresher. Um, anything else anybody needs, obviously hit me up. I do want you focused on the papers if you haven't turned them in yet. They're due Tuesday, 11:59. So, make that dream happen. In your spare time, sort of in those moments, don't forget we have that discussion post due on Tuesday. And it's a discussion post. It won't take long at all. But I do want you to kind of get the ball rolling on your projects. I think in some ways it could be fun. I mean, at least as fun as schoolwork can be, right? I don't have any sort of misunderstandings about that. Otherwise, I hope everyone's well. Take it easy. Thanks.